10 unique MTV's young adult animated shows from the 90s and early 2000s. When MTV first launched in 1981, it was like a breath of fresh air, different from all the other channels. It brought to the fore some delightful yet unknown underground bands and singers, without a worry about the ratings. It was poles apart from what it has become in recent years, a channel with the conventional stupid reality shows like 16 and Pregnant and Jersey Shore. They had discovered the easy recipe of success, but lost their original essence of a channel that cared about true talent and good content. Before the decay of MTV began, it was a pioneer in more ways than one. For instance, they provided political content in a cool way where the youth had a chance to interact with the presidential candidates in the show Choose or Lose. The show titled The Week in Rock, that was a part of MTV News, also brought sensational news to the fore. They were the first to announce the death of Kurt Cobain to the world. MTV also changed the way people generally perceived cartoons to be children's content. Their animated shows were directed at young audience, and they mastered the art of satire to enrich their content. In this video, we will speak about some of these golden age animated shows from the 90s and early 2000s that made MTV special before it started catering to the larger audience with the ridiculous reality shows. Hello there, everybody. Before we get into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel and clicking the little bell icon up in the corner to get notifications. This is a small click for you, but means a lot to us. Thank you, and let's begin. Liquid Television, 1991. Liquid Television was MTV's animation anthology with a surreal, grotesque, and dark humor-laced content. Some of the segments of this series were so popular that they later became a series of their own. You've probably admired the likes of Beavis and Butt-head and Aeon Flux. These were products of Liquid Television, which had animated shorts that were unconventional, yet appealing. Suddenly, the animated content that you could only see in the art film circuits was now delivered by this show. The content was created by some non-mainstream producers, and the work was done in a variety of styles. They used several forms of technology, like computer graphics, ink and paint, and claymation to present their content. Besides these serialized shows and shorts, Liquid Television also conducted puppet segments in live action. This experimental project was among the finest, but sadly, the cost of making these animated shorts was surpassing the money they were making from their meager ratings. Eventually, the show was shut down, but it gave us some golden moments in television history where such rich content flowed consistently to entertain the viewers. MTV's Spiderman, 2003. You have all watched and admired various versions of Spiderman, and yet we can confidently say that the MTV version is drastically different from all others. The story was on similar lines when a young Peter Parker discovers his spider-like superpowers and goes on a crime-fighting spree in New York City. He tries to balance his personal life as well, especially his relationship with his girlfriend Mary Jane and his job as a photographer. While the story is usual, the execution is what sets this Spider-Man apart from the other versions. For starters, it was much darker than the usual Spider-Man cartoons and movies. Targeted at young adults, this series explored some real-world issues like death, murders, sex, drug abuse, and so on. The alluring appearance of Mary Jane would give you a hint as to the mood of this show. She appeared in crop tops and chokers, scoring high on the oomph meter. The voice acting of Neil Patrick Harris as Spider-Man deserves a special mention, as he brings a hint of silly sarcasm to the voice of the superhero. Rob Zombie is also enchanting with the voiceover for Dr. Kurt Connors. An exciting aspect of the show was the villain's appearance in each episode, and these villains ranged from Russian terrorists to obsessed college girls. Some of the well-known Spider-Man villains, like Electro, Kingpin, and the Lizard, also make appearances in the mix of things. It is a great tragedy that such an amazing show only lasted one season. It ends on a cliffhanger, and sadly, you won't ever know what happens next. The Brothers Grunt, 1994. There is a raging debate on this show as to whether it was in the league of the greats like Beavis and Butt-head, or it was just trash dished out by MTV. The story was about the exploits of a group of mutant creatures that were grown on the back of an interstellar creature. These creatures were a group of boils known as the Grunt Brothers. The early episodes of this series were hampered by video segments that were being forced into it by MTV. They tried recreating the Beavis and Butt-head style. Only problem here was that these segments struggled as the characters in the Brothers Grunt couldn't talk. The show was marked by some crazy animation when some bizarre plot lines were explored, such as when a prison break was headed by a toothbrush-obsessed criminal. It was meant to be weird, and the oddball humor is certainly not everyone's cup of tea. The maker, Danny Antonucci, is also the creator of the likes of Ed, Edd and Eddy, and Lupo the Butcher. He does justice to his take on some unconventional humor as he introduced scenes such as a pigeon flying away with a Japanese businessman as he screams for help into his cell phone. Overall, if you have a taste in wacky humor, go for it, and you will be pleasantly surprised.
Welcome to the jungle, baby! You're gonna die!
Beavis and Butt-head, 1993. Imagine a show about two moronic young men who are laughing and being crude all the time. That is Beavis and Butt-head in short. The show was one of the greatest hits delivered by MTV. The storyline featured two teenagers who are fans of heavy metal music. They get bored easily and often end up doing really stupid things. Much of their time is spent in trashing everything around them, and either they think it sucks or they think it's cool. The makers took cues from the mannerisms of an average teenager and then ensured that the characters were extremely relatable for many. The 6 skits and the hilarious content struck a chord with the masses and made this a grand success. The two protagonists, as always, keen on losing their virginity and take no interest in education or schooling, their goals consist of all kinds of miscreant activities, where they want to smoke, drink, steal, and trash talk everything. This show was also the flag bearer of this genre, and led to shows like South Park being developed. The creativity of the maker of this show, Mike Judge, is evident from the whole variety of subjects he picks to deal with. Although the show was vehemently opposed by a group of elders and church groups, it did nothing to ruin its massive popularity. The end of this show was like the end of a cultural era, and for those missing out on this classic, it's a high time that you checked it out.
They are all dead. All. I have killed all.
The Maxx, 1995. Only MTV could come up with the idea of a homeless superhero. The Maxx is the story of the titular character who lives in a cardboard box and has only one friend named Julie Winters, who is a social worker. He has to protect his friend from a student of mystic arts who is also a serial killer named Mr. Gone. To make things complicated, he moves around in both the real world and the subconscious fantasy world. Maxx has quite a task at hand as he deals with the powerful Mr. Gone. One of the many charming things about the Maxx is that the makers are familiar with how people read comics, and they prepared the show in a similar fashion. The imaginative plot bodes well with the intelligent plot that is derived from a mishmash of popular psychology, dream interpretation, and mythological references. The characters are multifaceted and often endearing. The Maxx is a visual delight with some great animation. The twisted animated journey into the subconscious is truly fascinating, and you would rue the untimely cancellation of such classics.
Ready, aim, fire!
Downtown, 1999. How do the complexities of city life treat the youth? Downtown is a lighthearted take on this serious subject, as the story focuses on the life of Alex, a young man who moves into his New York apartment. He has a boring job at a copy store, and has plenty of problems to deal with, such as his selfish sister and irritating friends. There is also the unobtainable crush of his, who is a gothic girl. Is life in the city still worth all the trouble? You got to watch Downtown to find out. It's one of the underappreciated gems to leave the houses of MTV. Despite being overlooked, this is a show that is one of a kind. There are too many things going for this show. The characters are realistic and relatable. The addictive plot ensures that you are interested in the entire duration of the series. Downtown also has some impressive animation that complements the brilliance of the show. The main character, Alex, is a nerdy guy, and such an idea was never previously floated for such shows. The only bad thing about Downtown is that it got cancelled after only one season. If we could only reverse the apathy of MTV towards such iconic shows. Aeon Flux, 1991. The story of Aeon Flux is set 400 years into the future, where the character of Aeon Flux is a mysterious assassin and a secret agent. She hails from the country of Monica and has a weird relationship with her lover, who is also her antagonist, a man named Trevor Goodchild. She is ruthless in her missions, and her kind of justice is swift and bloody. There are some bizarre moments in the episodes of the second season that kill her off at the end of each episode. Aeon Flux is one of the amazing works of Peter Chung, a remarkable personality in the world of animation. Initially, it was a part of MTV's Liquid Television, and later, it went on to become a full-fledged series. The attraction of a cool and sexy heroine combined with a brilliant plot was enough to draw the audience. The scenarios that they dwell on in this series are often bizarre and surreal, but they always manage to interest the fans. Aeon Flux was later made into a movie as well, with Charlize Theron playing the protagonist. Everything about this show, from voice acting to animation, was spot on, and it is one of the delightful presentations of MTV.
Leave me alone.
Screw off, man.
I said, leave me.
The Head, 1994. This is the story of an alien invasion with a humorous take on the subject. The plot concerns a friendly alien that inhabits the giant head of Jim. The aliens from his planet are looking to take over the world, and he wants to stop their evil plans. But things are easier said than done, and he faces opposition not just from the invading alien forces, but also the FBI agents who are on his trail. A crazy manipulated doctor who also stands in their way as they look to save the planet with the help of some unlikely allies. If you are up for something different from the usual, The Head should interest you with its unique content. The biggest asset of this show is how well written it is. The adult humor does appeal to the target audience, consisting of young adults, and overall, the show has a hilarious take on serious matter like an alien invasion. The artistry involved is rather simple, but it has an addictive essence that gets you hooked onto this show. The puns and the jokes are the highlights of the story that also have a generous dose of action. Like most good things on MTV, The Head did not last long either, with only 2 seasons to entertain the audience.
Okay, you two punks, I want a good, clean fight. Any questions?
Yeah. Can I do your granddaughter?
Celebrity Deathmatch, 1998. Never could I imagine claymation being on par with the content delivered by animation. The show Celebrity Deathmatch by MTV proved otherwise with a creative idea that involves celebrities wrestling in the ring. The show was hosted by the clay figures of Johnny Gomes and Nick Diamond. They would pit one celebrity against another, and the first one to die would lose. Some of the iconic duels were between Charles Manson and Marilyn Manson, Mary-Kate versus Ashley, and the Three Tenors versus the Three Stooges. The very concept with celebrities wrestling and an unflappable Judge Mills Lane as the referee is intriguing enough. They brought in movie stars, rock stars, and TV stars as they take on each other amidst the consistent running commentary by the fictional host. There are non-stop puns and the most offensive jokes in the mix of things. The impersonation of the celebrities by the voiceover artist is so brilliant that sometimes you would feel that even the celebrity in real life does not sound as original as the dummy. They make snide remarks about each other, refer to their own movies and shows, and the Deathmatch is probably the most entertaining to watch. Those were the days when MTV delivered such stunning content.
I don't like to smile unless I have a reason.
Daria, people judge you by your expression.
Yes, and I believe there is something intrinsically wrong with that system.
Daria, 1997. The protagonist, Daria, is not the usual teenage girl. She is smart, sarcastic, has her own opinions, and lacks the motivation to do things. She mostly spends her time observing the actions of other people, and for this, she has her best friend Jane Lane for company. Jane is another misfit in society and hails from a family of unconventional thinkers. They form a team as they condemn and mock the stereotypes around them. It is hard to deliver hits with a story that involves a social commentary, but Daria does just that. You might be misled into thinking that this is a children's show due to the animation, but the story proves otherwise. The characters involved have their own stories that give you an insight into their lives. You have some characters like the delusional brother of Jane, who aspires to be a musician, and these characters add the realistic touch to the story. The animation quality is commendable and makes the watching experience fascinating. It offers a deeper understanding of teenage life and their issues, without preaching or making things boring. Sadly, they don't make such content anymore. This is all the time we had for today's episode. We hope you guys liked it. So it would be awesome if you guys could take some time to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tell us which topics you want us to cover in the comments section. And stay safe.